Luckily, there wasn't stuff then. Oh, hang on. Sorry. Got to click the got it. Got it.
Thomas.
So Dana's terrified. That's good. That's where we want you to be. I just read your message. I'm terrified of this. And well, you should be. The world you think is about to disappear from your
I know. I'm holding on by this pinky.
Yeah, you wish. If it was just a pinky, we'd have no problem.
Are you the one keeping here, Dana?
Am I what?
Try that pinky loose. I said, are you the one keeping us here?
I'm sorry.
Not really.
This one.
So I had an interesting thing this week for anyone, and don't go reaching out to her because she's in mourning and everything at the moment. But Annie's baby daddy just passed yesterday, and I had this. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but I've had this post I just put up yesterday in the morning. I was up at like 3 in the morning or 3:15 or something, a little earlier than I usually get up. And I had a vision. And I thought the vision was me, right? So finger on my nose, everything's always about me, total responsibility. So I'm thinking this is relative to me, which in a certain sense it is, since it's all me. But I had a vision of, and I was looking at it from behind as if I was following this person, of somebody walking into a group of beings. I couldn't say men or women, but into a group of beings who were clad in long robes of brown robes with gold trimmings, and I couldn't see specifically. It was just very brief, and it was almost like looking through a frosted glass to some extent. And this person was being welcomed in, being welcomed home, being brought into the fold, and it kind of stumped me because it didn't. When you have a vision, when you get a vision or something that's non-temporal, and I can't say this for everybody, I guess, but it usually seems to be very relative and pertinent to where it is you're at in your own transformation. And, you know, like, what's the point of giving you a vision that makes no sense? And I've had other ones in the past that, not that the past is, but I've had other ones that have made immediate sense, where I might have been pondering over something, some element of a concept or a principle of the course, and then had an experience of something that makes sense of it. But this one was completely left of field. And then I was talking with Annie later in the day, and she told me that about the PayPal or whatever it is I'm supposed to do. I don't know that I have resistance to that idea, but
You were full on resistance last year. You
dread.
had a whole story about it, a whole thing in the past.
I know. I have a slight amount of dread of having to re-enter into that field of technicality and all that sort of stuff.
Nothing's safe in this world.
And she told me that her baby daddy, John, had passed, and I was with John only a few weeks ago. And in the story, in the illusion of the world and everything, John and his body were undergoing chemotherapy and kidney dialysis 3 or 4 times a week, and Parkinson's, and it was a horrific scenario to entertain. And I had to sit with John and Annie, and knowing full well that I'm sitting with a brother who's on the threshold of what it is that most of us absolutely dread as the idea of that third obstacle to peace, which is the fear of death. And of course, there's nothing to say. There's like, because words all speak of hope, right? All language, all words speak of hope, hope for the future, hope for a better past, hope for all these sorts of things. All ridiculous, of course. But there was this moment, and then Annie brought out a big joint. If anyone's been to Byron Bay, and there's a lot of hippies and people, lots of cannabis and everything like that down there. It's one of those sort of communities. And so the three of us are sitting there, me and Annie and the dead guy sitting there, John will be laughing about it now, but sitting there smoking this joint. And I'm not very familiar with all of that sort of stuff anymore. So it really hit me. And I'm sitting there in this kind of numbness with Annie and Johnny, and realizing that there's nothing to say. But because of the influence of the cannabinoids, feeling like I should say something anyway, and just sort of stumbling over these kind of ridiculous words that were coming out and things like that. And it brought me to a place of realizing the importance of silence, realizing like it's an abiding realization, really, but it was highlighted in that situation. And when you go into meditation, the importance of silence and in the inner domain, it's exactly the same thing. But of course, without the prompt and without the impetus for silence, you only have your own effort, right? And the thing that I got out of it was, in this particular instance, that without that extra initiative, without that extra push, I don't know how to put it into words, but without that brother there to give total meaning to the effort, my own efforts were half-hearted. My own efforts at silence were half-hearted, but it was the awareness, like smoking the joint made it just seem like so obvious. There was the total conflict. There was the total dichotomy or duality of wanting to say something to impose upon the moment, knowing that none of it was so and none of it was necessary, and the other one of knowing that there should be an upholding of the abidance in that silence. And of course, when you go into meditation, if you attempt to meditate yourself, you'll find it very difficult at the beginning to put any kind of value or any kind of, what would the word be? Credibility, because the mind is geared to deny that. The mind is geared to deny it and avoid it and keep it at bay, so you don't feel, so you don't connect, so you don't join. But when you have another brother with you, and that brother brings you the very stimulus, brings you the very moment, that instant, that where you can't avoid the split mind that you have regarding the potential and the decision that you're making about your own spiritual initiative, it's incredible. You know, it's like Joe. Hey, Joe. Joe sits with people who are crossing over all the time, right, in palliative care. And I can only imagine that would be something that would be reminiscent of what I'm trying to express here. It's like there's really nothing to say. But when you put yourself into a situation, it's like when you meet somebody new, you know, and you feel like you've got to fill in the gaps with small talk and get to know them and all of this sort of stuff, because the silence is intolerable. But when you're forced into it, when there's a situation where you have to choose and your brother is presenting you with that situation, it's absolutely amazing. And then to supercharge that by being completely out of your comfort zone by smoking a joint or doing whatever. And in this case, that was out of my comfort zone, which is unusual, but in that particular case, it was out of it. It puts you right there in the crux of your own decision-making. And that's where you've got to be. That's why, Dana, this whole thing terrifies you. Because the original decision that you made, the very first decision, oh, hello, we've got a T-shirt. The very first decision that you made was for separation from God. Right? God gave you free will. Your decision was, wow, what is that? And boom, cast you into a dream where you can examine what that is, right? Ever since then, you've been terrified of making another true decision. Imagine a child in the supermarket who gets lost from their parent and they're screaming and yelling at the back of the supermarket, lost. That's you. Where is my father? I've spent all of eternity in eternity, and all of a sudden I find myself here in this dreamscape surrounded by the moving and the temporary and all of this sort of stuff. It's actually terrifying. If you allow yourself to feel for a moment the tip of the iceberg of that terror, you will recoil from it. You can sense it and you know it's there. Hey, Bill. But it's about making the decision. It's like in everything, the power of decision is my own. Sometimes I'm forced into making that decision. Sometimes I'm put into a situation outside of my comfort zone with no ability to control the particulars of how it is that I interact with it. And I simply have to go along for the ride. And that's going to be terrifying until I make a decision. Right? It's going to be uncomfortable until I make a decision. And I have to choose either for love or for fear, for God or for the world. When I choose for God, that doesn't mean immediately that I'll be released from the tension of my inability to have previously been able to make the decision, but it means that I've now got a point of focus. And the Holy Spirit can enter in, or the Spirit of wholeness can enter into my thinking to allow me to find a new way to see what it is that I perceive outside myself that seems to be so threatening or so confronting or so unusual. And so when I was sitting with this brother who was on the cusp of passing over, and not passing over cleanly, passing over in what I would say was an awful state of affairs, the discomfort that I felt was enormous. It was enormous. It was just, to be my brother's keeper in that situation was an unfathomable task. I had a bottle of 85-year-old single malt in my truck, and there was like a tiny bit in there. And I was keeping it. It was a gift that I gave to my father actually on his 80th birthday, and he's 85 or 6 now, but he drank the majority of it. And I said to him, make sure you save me a nip of that whiskey. I've never had an 85-year-old single malt before. And it was a $600 bottle. And so he saved me a bit, and I brought it back, and my Irish friend and I were going to have the very last of it. But when I was sitting with Johnny that night, I knew that he was not going to have another chance to be able to try something like that. So we had it together. So we had our joint and our whiskey, and John said to me, he said, you know, that joint and that whiskey's really fucked me up. I didn't know what to say. It's like, dude, look at yourself. How can this joint and this whiskey fuck you up any more than you really already are? You know, like it's you're totally fucked. And there was the breaking of that interminable moment of like the whole thing just shattered, you know, like the whole thing just shattered, and the joy was returned. And the discomfort and the anxiety, you never know how it's going to look. You know, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. You never know what any situation is supposed to look like or how it's going to look. So there's never any reason, Dana, to be afraid to enter into something or to give validation to those fears. And I know that's a bit of a shaggy dog story. It goes, you know, like it's a long story to get to a short point, but you never know what anything is for. You know, you never know. But it's like literally in joining with my brother, everything that needs to occur to expose the denial in me will happen. But if I'm attempting to do it on my own terms, then I'm trying to control the outcome. I have to be willing to say yes and to allow whatever that yes is to be honest in me in the playing out of whatever it brings. And that's going to be when you said you're hanging on with your pinky. Who was that said that? Oh, it was you. That's right. Yeah. You're hanging on with your pinky. It's like, man, let go. Just let go. The whole teaching of anything spiritual that's true on this planet is about letting go. Let go, take the journey. It's going to be terrifying. There's going to be moments where the joy just erupts from you and you wish that you could embrace the whole world in your arms and just have that wonderful warmth and thing. And there's going to be other moments where you approach the threshold of personal change and personal healing, and that's going to be terrifying. But if you can remember that my brother is also my savior, that there is an opportunity in every relationship, there is a miracle contained in every relationship, a holy instant there waiting to be unpacked, waiting to be realized, waiting to be accepted, then you'll perhaps enter into those moments with less trepidation. I won't say that you'll enter into them with no trepidation. I mean, anyway, so today I wanted to talk about rituals a little bit, just from a personal, and I guess that goes hand in hand with comfort zones and everything, like rituals. I had well, it's not even a discussion, it's kind of one-sided. I'm being laid down the law on, so by a young woman who's I made some comment on her post about how every morning she lights her incense and says this specific prayer and everything, and man, I guess I didn't ask for help in how to respond to that particular thing, but I'm looking at everything as a reflection of my own thoughts about, and like, so you look at stuff and you go, and this is how you have to look at it, right? You have to take everything personal. When you're out there in the world, you got to take everything personal. Sure, there is no world. Sure, it's just an illusion. Sure, I'm just waking up from a dream. All of that stuff. That's the truth, right? God is eternal, therefore there's nothing that's not eternal, if God is everything. But to bring my mind my mind up to that, to bring my mind to that point of singularity and have that be my abiding experience in the world, as, you know, like on earth as it is in heaven, let's say, it takes some effort. It takes some mind training, and it takes a lot of willingness to set the goal and allow that to be the goal wherever I am and in whatever I'm doing. So I'm looking at this particular post, and for some reason it just caught my attention, and I'm thinking, well, I've got an alternative to that, you know, like I've been in that place, and let me offer that. There wasn't really a request for any kind of an offering of anything, you know, like it's just I live in hope, I guess, in some regards, and you know, you like to think you're being helpful, but so I just put this little spiel about rituals and blah blah blah, and you know how they're helpful, but they should always be taken on board as being something that is temporary, you know, just to step up to the next thing until you no longer need them. And because I'm always like this, finger on my nose, or always try to be like this, finger on my nose, having made this declaration on this post, which is everything is a declaration, I then made a mental note to myself to be vigilant for my own rituals in life. And then this morning, having no clue what I was doing, like rubbing the sleep from my eyes of this bodily thing, here I am in the kitchen with my hot chocolate and my crumpets, and I suddenly realized the sense of comfort that I get from this little ritual of making my hot chocolate and my crumpets before the Zoom meeting. And it's right, coffee and thing, but salvation gets right down into the nitty-gritty. So it's like there's nothing ever I see out there in somebody else that is not applicable to me. If there's an interaction with it on the external field, it's because there's a need for the healing of it in the internal one. Otherwise, I would simply be able to live without judgment of any kind, even the helpful kind that I might perceive and think to myself to be helpful, and to simply be in the spirit or of the spirit and allow that to permeate, known or unknown, throughout the spheres. So that was a moment of the collapse of an idea for me of ritual, right? Now, hot chocolate and crumpet or no hot chocolate and crumpet, it doesn't matter. It's been liberated from the attachment that I had to it, and I can simply have it as it is with no meaning ascribed. I can simply participate in it without that it has any kind of temporal association to anything else, because that's what the mind does. It builds up one little scenario here and attaches it. It's like synapses in the brain. Attaches one little thing here to another little thing here and makes a memory. That memory then becomes associative in the mind with other things that seem to resonate on the same vibratory frequency as that memory. And before you know it, boom, Shankar, I've got a whole identity based on a cup of hot chocolate and a crumpet. Right? A whole world emerges from crumpets and hot chocolate. And before you know it, you're right back there and the ego's, slipped in the back door. So there's this whole vigilance that's required for one's own self, and keeping your finger on your nose is the best way to do that. If you know of a better way, let me know. Jesus says in the Course, the sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept atonement for himself, right? I am at one, atonement, at one-ment, right? I am at one with everything I think I see, all my thoughts about it, all my experiences of it, all my memories, my hopes and future expectations and everything else. And gradually, there's this metamorphosis in the mind where you begin to see changes in your life. You begin to feel happier and less inhibited within yourself. You begin to feel less like a victim to the world or a doormat to your associations, and you begin to feel good about yourself. You just begin to have these little moments, and you may slide back, and sometimes it's one step forward and two steps back. But there's this kind of resolution that's born of seeing that you have a moment, seeing that you have this success. Paul is out in the thing there, in the sun, walking into the sunlight at last. There's this resolution that comes forth in the mind that you can't deny. It becomes your experience. Oh, I applied this principle. I had a little shift. I put my finger on my nose and made a declaration out there into my world about what it is I think that I'm about in my own process. And then, boom, I was shown immediately the falsity of my my placement in that by seeing the self-same thing reflected in my own experience, my personal experience, right? Bringing the two things together, that seems to be one thing seems to be out there, the other thing seems to be my own personal rendering of it, and realizing, wait a minute, I'm just seeing my own thoughts about myself. Right? And that finger comes firmly back again on my nose. As soon as I think I need to comment or say something out there. The funny thing is that, and I remember this sort of vaguely from my own experience, you can be on all the spiritual pages on Facebook or Instagram or whatever is thing you're on, or groups, or in a church or anything like that. Don't expect, it's like Jesus is the best example of this. Don't expect them to love you. Don't expect to be welcomed for your greater knowledge or for your greater learnings or whatever it is. I mean, just remember, they nailed the Savior to a piece of wood. Me. So keeping it singular, then, like I think it was Ramana Maharshi. No, not Ramana Maharshi. Well, anyway, some other classic kind of guru type entity who said you can't stay in the singular state all day. And if you look into and it's impossible. If you look into the workbook of A Course in Miracles, you're only asked to do the lessons for 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, half an hour a day, whatever. Because to attempt to maintain a true singular perspective on the world for any length of time, it would render the body unuseful. At a certain point, there's a threshold in consciousness where, and this is towards the end of the workbook, where you're entering into direct experience of light. If you enter into that direct experience of light for more than a moment, you're gone from here. The world disappears, which is what you want, but the world disappears. To maintain that sense of singularity, the body becomes lifeless. The body becomes something that seems to, what people would say, is dead. And I remember the story of a fireman in New York City who went into somebody's apartment, and the young man was sitting there in the lotus position, dead as a doornail from smoke inhalation perhaps or whatever, but he was sitting in a meditative position. He was so gone from his body, he wasn't aware of the fire engines, the smoke, the flames, nothing. So the true point of singularity is not be here now out in the world, it's be here now in your own internal inquiry. And that's what's terrifying. That idea that you may not be able to come back, that idea that you may not have recourse to your physical avatar. Because in this world, you've become accustomed to it. In this world, in this experience of life as a different form of life, you've become accustomed to your body as the familiar association with what it is you think you are. And now all of a sudden somebody slams this book of A Course in Miracles in front of your face and goes, no, that's not right. Here, this is what you are. Try and remember this. And of course, we have all these attachments and all these memories and all of these synapses that tell us that my morning hot chocolate and crumpets is actually something. And it brings me comfort in a comfortless place. If I could truly realize the comfortless place and my attempt to adjust to it by crumpets and hot chocolate, that would bring me into conflict again. But this is a journey into fear. That's exactly where I'm supposed to be. A journey into fear, not away from it. That whole spiritual, the whole spiritual domain of feeling good and follow your bliss and all of that stuff, that's fine, but it brings you to this. It brings you to mind training. You follow that happy heart road all the way to the very end, like I did. Go to all the festivals, all the love-ins, all the rainbow gatherings, everything. And how beautiful it all is, and we're all one, isn't that lovely, and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, boom, somebody hands you a copy of A Course in Miracles, and it all comes tumbling down. You have to be coaxed and tricked and cajoled into coming home. You know, it's like a naughty child that just wants to stay out in the street and play a little bit longer. It's like, hang on, you've got a true thing to do here in eternity, and now you've got to level up. You got to grow up, and in our case, grow down. You've got to become more like a child than. So the rituals of man are seen in everything. If you were to look at your own daily practices, perhaps, and this is why in the end of A Course it says, and now forget this course. I've met many people who like cling to the course, you know, with that little pinky, they cling to the course as if it's a lifeline, because it seems to offer a lifeline out of the ways of the world which they were horrified with to begin with. I can't stand the world any longer. I hate it. Fucking hell, God help me. boom, here comes A Course in Miracles. And then, oh, this is so good. I resonate with this. It's speaking the truth. I don't quite get it, but it's speaking the truth. And then you get to the end and it says, and now let go of this course. And there seems to be nothing after it. And you're left in this sort of abyss of nothingness. Like, now what do I do? If I let go of the course, what do I do then? You're left with your true self. You're left with that moment where you have to choose. What do I do then? I have to choose for God and allow that choice to be revealed to me in the playing out of whatever it is that seems to be presented without trying to control it. Hopefully, if I've been through the workbook of A Course in Miracles properly and applied those lessons properly to my thinking, I'll have some kind of an idea about that. I'll have some kind of a relationship with that principle of let go and let God, and be willing to step untethered into the next moment, as terrifying as that may be. And if it's not terrifying, you're not stepping into the next moment, because this is a journey into fear. And it doesn't really do any good to tell all the, Ted used to call them the moon maidens. The moon maidens and whoever else is, I forget what the other, the moon maidens and whatever, but in Byron Bay there are, or there used to be, it's a very upmarket place now, but there used to be a great deal of folk music and all of that kind of thing, where there'd be dancing in long skirts and a lot of chanting of the Krishna kirtans and things like that. And everybody would be high on the light and having a wonderful time. But when it came to forgiveness, that would be like a stumbling block, you know, and I can only look at it from my own, keep my finger on my nose at that time. But nobody wants to do the work, because there is a recognition, like Dana said, there's a recognition of this fear or this apprehension about doing it that you can't put your finger on. If God is love and I'm in a process of relinquishing everything that's not that so that I can remember my Father who's representing unconditional love to me, what the hell am I afraid of? Why am I not just going for it? Why am I not simply just like forgiving myself for the world I think I made and entering in to the ever-loving arms of my creative source? Why am I not doing that? Because there's this little tiny niggly thing that's sort of somewhere back there that goes, that's terrifying. Yeah, it's just one little finger hanging on. That's terrifying, to love myself unconditionally. Holy crap. Because I can't let myself off the hook. If I love myself unconditionally, then I can't ever be a victim. I can't ever be a perpetrator of anything. I can't ever be unaccountable. It puts me above and beyond the status quo of my own ideas about myself as this body. It puts me into a whole other order, a celestial order. And in the world, that's not allowed. And you know it. The world is a place where all things come to die. That's what I'm supposed to do here. I'm supposed to come here to die, like everyone and everything else. And if you refuse to do that, if you choose to change the script, the world's going to look at you and go, oh, no, 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 no. We're going to ostracize you. We're going to nail you to a big cross of wood. We're going to do whatever we can to get rid of you because you're trouble. How dare you love yourself unconditionally? And you'll suddenly realize that all of those old familiar associations that you once called friends and family, they all sort of fall away. They all sort of fall away because you suddenly started upon a different journey, a different road, a different path in a different direction. And you can call to them as much as you want and tell them, hey, follow me. Give up the world. Follow me. I've found something else. This is a whole new thing going on here. But because of free will, they have to choose to do that for themselves. Which is why it doesn't work when you go onto somebody's post and tell them about their rituals. And you know the funny thing is, young girls especially, man, they got claws. They got claws. They can tear you to shreds, and just like, I don't even know where to go with the stuff that they give you these days. They're just like, who the fuck is this guy? I'm just going to rip you a new one here, and then whoop, I'll get back to my incense. It's like, oh man. I had somebody once came here to Avatar, and I presented them very reasonably, I thought, with the idea that there is no world. And they kept a very nice face the whole time they were here. And then over the days and weeks that followed, through other friends, I began to hear that this particular person was savaging me in the background somewhere, you know, like in... And it was beautiful. It was like, yes, because you have to deny the Christ to embrace the Christ. It's like, if you can deny it, you're giving it validity. If you can deny it, you're giving it reality over you. If you're giving something reality over you to the extent where you feel compelled to deny it and to crucify it and to everything else, then you've already accepted it. You've already accepted it in order to reject it. Does that make sense?
No, can you explain that again in a different way?
It's like
please?
people that say they're atheists. There would have to be a God in the first place for you to not believe in it. I don't believe in God. Well, what is it then that you don't believe in? God. Yeah, but what is that? Get it? So when somebody denies you, subconsciously, that's their acceptance of you. They've heard what you've said. They've let it into consciousness. It's in there doing what it needs to do. They just don't like it very much. It doesn't mean they didn't hear it. When you tell somebody there is no world, that may make no sense to their understanding of anything. But it doesn't mean they didn't hear it. They might tell you you're crazy, but it's already in. It's too late. You heard somebody tell you there is no world, there is no death. That thought, that idea that you deny carries as much power in your denial of it as it does as if you accept it.
It's the same thing as, is this the same thing as the ideas leave not their source?
Pretty much, because ideas don't leave their source.
Mm-hmm.
In the witnessing, though, Bernadette, in the witnessing to your own process, in the witnessing to your own transformation, it becomes necessary from time to time to step out of your comfort zone and to declare yourself and to get the results of that declaration. But don't be surprised if you're rejected. But don't be upset by the rejection, because the rejection is just as powerful as the acceptance of it. Just as powerful. It may not bring an immediate release or an immediate result, but it's there. It works away in the background. It's like a thorn or a pebble in your shoe. Eventually, you're going to have to stop and take it out. You're going to have to stop, recognize the pebble, and go, God damn it, there's a pebble in my shoe, and validate it. You can't walk along pretending it doesn't hurt forever. So the idea then that there is no death, there is no death, makes a mockery in my ignorance of what Jesus means by that, or in my denial of it. If I want to stamp my foot and say there is so a death, Jesus, you're crazy, let's nail you to a cross. It makes a mockery of everything I think. Because all of my thoughts are rooted in the ideas of death. All things come here to die. Even my thoughts of what living are. You know, it's like death. Death is an idea that takes many forms, from the littlest of sighs to the ultimate demise of the body. Every breath and every experience in the human experience is underwritten by death. If you find yourself here participating in anything, you're participating in a graveyard. It's all just lipstick on a skeleton at the best. So when I look at my own ideas and Jesus comes along and goes, hey, there is no death, automatically that's going to affect everything, because everything in my thinking is deathful and everything in Jesus' thinking is lifeful. At some point, because I only have my own experience, I've got to look at what Jesus means by that to try and get rid of it, because I can't walk with that idea in my mind like a stone in my shoe forever. In one lifetime or another, in one episode or another, I've got to unpack that idea of what I think it is when he says there is no death and look at it in comparison to everything I think I believe. It's like cancer. You can avoid it and pretend it's not there and all of this sort of stuff, but eventually you've got to acknowledge it and go, no, it is fucking there. It's there and I hate it. Jesus told me there is no death and I hate him for that. He told me the world's just a dream and I can't stand that. God damn it, Jesus, you ruin everything, you wet blanket. I can't even have a dream of death without somebody coming along and party pooping it. So, but we've got work to do. We've got creation to do and to get on with, and creation has always proceeded unabated. But in my own awareness of that, I seem to be fascinated with this tiny mad idea that I'm reinvigorating and reinventing over and over again as the experience that I seem to find myself having as being a body in the world. And it's like, all right, well, I'm looking at the world. I'm looking at my dreams, my beautiful friends, and my successful businesses, and my holidays, and everything that seems to be on offer here. And then I've got this little thing, there is no death, and it just niggles away and ruins everything. Because somewhere the underlying foundation of all my amazing experiences in the world is death. I know it's death. And that's what I've chosen for. I can have a house in the Swiss Alps and go skiing in a boat and whiz around the Greek islands and drink martinis and do whatever I like. It's still death. I can be as happy as a pig in shit in the world at the top of the heap, and it's still death. Welcome to the realm of death. At the point where I'm willing to actually look at that and see that all roads lead to Rome, everything here ends in death, it sort of cuts back on my wriggle room. But I have to look at it honestly. I have to take that stone out of my shoe and look at it honestly and go, God damn it. I've had this stone in my shoe all along and it's been hurting me and I've been doing it to myself. I could have just took that stone out long ago and been walking happily. So there is no death. And I look at that idea that there is no death, and all of a sudden it begins to affect my thoughts initially about what I think death is. Death is the demise of the body. That's what death is. Death is every unhappy thought I have, and every happy thought I have based on love in my own idea that isn't unconditional. And I've got to be willing to look at that. Like, holy crap. Isn't it just enough, Jesus, that I just give you my crappy stuff, my crappy ideas? You want my ideas about love as well for purification? Can't I just have one little idea about love? Because this person the other night, man, they were great in bed and that was love. And I, like that's where it goes. And if you look at the ego's ideas of love, it's like, I don't know about Mills and Boon books, but those romantic books where everything seems to be packaged perfectly, and I look at my mind as an idea of that as being the author of my script, and I see how it is that I imagine myself to be in a relationship that just represents that nature of unconditional love. It's never going to happen, not in the world. I have to find it in me. I have to love myself unconditionally without being any concern how that looks reflected back to me out in the world. Because the only thing that's ever going to be reflected back to me in the world is death. At the point where I get to the highest vibration or the highest reflective vibration of that idea of unconditional love in the world, it's like that. I think it's lesson 50 or in the Course in Miracles. God, I'll get so close to God that he'll reach down and pull me up to him, lift me up to him. You know, in the moment where I get to that almost perfect relationship in the world, boom, I'm gone. It's like, God damn it, I can't even. You know, who was it singing the Krishna stuff before? We had like the devotees of Krishna, they grow that little thing, the little hair at the back, so that when they're perfected in their purification, Lord Krishna can reach down and pull them up to him by that hair. That's right. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful belief. But there's always a thing, you know, there's always an association, but there is no death. It's like all of a sudden the rug is pulled from under my feet of hope. I was hoping to die. I was hoping to have this glamorous, you know, but the thing with death is you're dead. You can't tell that you're dead unless you come back to witness to it yourself. You know? And in the point you do that, you're alive again. So it's like, well, God damn it, it doesn't work. It's like a physicist trying to prove a theory, like the twin slits theory. You can't prove it to yourself because in the moment that you prove it, you don't exist. So there's nothing really to fear. I mean, I never had any hope of proving death to be real. So what's the point in trying to prove it to be unreal? It makes no sense. And I live somewhere between those two parameters in the place where it makes no sense. And if I look at the world, it makes no sense. Let me just die now and get it over with and join my brothers in the whatever is the next, in this moment, in this moment, in this moment. But I have to die to my old ideas of myself first. I can't examine it from this side, what death is or what death might be, because it's just an idea. It's a singular idea, just as life is a singular idea. It's the end of life, just as God is the creative source of all life. God brought itself into being by itself. Well, where from? That's where the ego goes. What was there before God? If God brought itself into being and can take itself out of being, what did it bring itself into being? You know, like it just goes on into this ever, you know, like pi. What's the equation of pi? And it just goes on forever. It never stops. At some point, you have to make the decision to stop. It's like all my thinking is rooted in death. When am I going to stop that? All my thoughts about A Course in Miracles are rooted in death. I have to choose to stop it. I have to choose to accept Jesus at his word. Not what I think his word is, but at his word. When he says there is no death, let me simply accept that. Yes, Lord, there is no death. Now it can be revealed to me. Whilst I'm still trying to nut and bolt it and work it out with my pointed little brain, what I think he means by it, I'm still using my own deathly ideas to try and do that. But if he's telling me there is no death, what the hell am I doing? There's no death, but just let me look at death as a way to try and understand how you mean it doesn't exist. It's pointless. The human experience is a pointless experience. It has no meaning, and it doesn't have to have a meaning. But we look to give it meaning in the little rituals and the little hot chocolates and crumpets and hanging on with the finger. It's all an attempt to give meaning where there is none, rather than just live in the wow and the gratitude and the yes. Yes, wow, and thank you. Let me look at this idea with my ideas that are actually geared up to deny that idea. Let me take all the petrol out of this car and see how far I can drive it. It makes no sense. It's just dumb. It's just the dumbest thing ever, right? It's like a little child would think something like that. You know, let's put water in this petrol engine and see how far it gets. Children would think things like that. We are children. We think the most ridiculous things. And God loves us regardless. Jesus loves us regardless. Nail him to a stick in the middle of the bloody Badlands, you know, and it's like, forgive them, Lord. They know not what they do. They are your children. All my thoughts don't mean anything. Lesson 10 of A Course in Miracles. My thoughts do not mean anything. And yet I use them to try and study A Course in Miracles. Let me look at my thoughts about that lesson. What does he mean when he says my thoughts don't mean anything? What thoughts are you going to use to try and discover what he means by that? Your thoughts that don't mean anything? He's telling you they don't mean anything. Why would you use them to try and understand what he means by that? Simply let go of what you think it might mean and enter into an experience that's going to reveal it to you so that you can begin to live from that experience. Like, holy shit, it's that simple. If I refuse to listen to my own thoughts, then what? No. Missed it again. That's your own thoughts again. Right? Simply stop doing it. What's that Bob Newhart clip? Have you seen that? I put the clip to one of my posts this week. Like it. I love that clip. It is so good. Just stop it. He goes, stop it. And it's that simple. Right? I have a fear of being buried alive in a box. Stop it. Right? You have to choose to stop it. Stop it is the same choice as I choose for God. Because God has nothing to do with my thoughts about God. God is mind. God is thought itself, not thoughts about something. God is the source of all thought, all mind, all life. It's a funny thing. We really are just a bunch of kids in a sandpit making up rules for who plays with what toy and how long you can play with it for and who gets the next turn of it and all this sort of stuff. And what happens if you don't give it to the next person whose turn it is? And it's like, it goes on and on and on, but it's still all in the sandpit. Don't get sand on my truck. Rituals. Every thought I have is part of an incredible ritual. Every thought in my own mind is part of an incredible ritual devised to convince myself that I have a devotion to something that I'm denying at the same time. When you see that, it's literally like one of those penny drop moments. It's like, what the? Doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles. It's a ritualistic attempt to prove to myself the impossible. what could possibly need healing in God's creation if it is created as God in his own likeness? There is no need of healing. But because of my unwillingness to make the decision to accept that now, to accept my perfection now, I seem to have the need for this convoluted big whole thing of going through this anti-ritual, right? This reverse ritual to bring me back to the place where it's completely obvious. Hey, Francois, in the dark there, my brother. Repent, turn around and face the light. Look at that. It's a good breathe. Close your eyes and take a breath. Salvation is not beyond immediate learning. Salvation is not beyond immediate learning. In the moment you realize the hopelessness and the pointlessness of your situation, realize truly you will fall into surrender. You will give up. You will stop it. And you will allow for the Holy Spirit to come upon you and reveal to you the nature of the truth of yourself. But that's terrible.
Hook,
Right.
that little hook that takes you back. You think you're surrendered, and then someone says something, and you go, I want to change it. I want to fix it. I want to change it. It just happened to me. And I just wanted,
Right.
I thought I was on top of it. And I had a compulsion to change it.
Right. You were on top of it until you had the thought that you were on top of it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All your thoughts deny the truth of you. So the thought that you thought you were on top of it took you out of being actually on top of it to examine it from an objective place and put yourself separate from the situation. If you had refused to entertain that thought, you would have simply not even bothered to enter into that denial. It's like it's the thought I have about it that drags me into the drama. If I could sit and just simply watch my thoughts go past like an oddly assorted procession without actually grabbing a hold of one and making it into an association through a ritual that I have with my own thinking, I would have been free from it and would have been into the next moment with no clue. You ever seen that movie Being There? I think it's Peter Sellers. It's a very old movie, Being There. The guy has no freaking clue. He hasn't learnt to judge himself or others. He's grown up in a house all by himself with his, I don't even know who the guy was, but anyway, he died and he had to go out. He knew he had to go out. People in the world would say this guy's a simpleton. But he experienced life in the moment as it was happening without judging it, without referencing himself in comparison to it. And at the end of the movie, he walks on the water. It's just like,
yeah. And everybody projected onto him, like whatever they wanted to be, they projected onto him, and he was just that, like whatever I thought he was. It was a beautiful movie.
I am what you say I am. Yeah. Whatever.
He was like, okay,
exactly. Whatever, Trevor. It doesn't matter. But it's because I've given it all the meaning that it has for me that I think it actually matters. I think it matters that I can hang on. I think that's a thing to me somehow. It isn't. As if I have any say in it at all. There is only the will of God. Eventually, I'm just going to be like, stop it, and let that finger just go, and that will be the will of God too. It's like the time for the apple to fall is already predetermined before the apple even begins to grow on the tree. You know, which is why really there's nothing to worry about. It's like the caterpillar entering into the chrysalis. I'm a caterpillar right now, entering into this chrysalis that, let's say, we'll call the chrysalis a period of healing, a period of transformation or purification. I'm entering into this, and I'm weaving the cocoon around me from which I'm going to have to come out of. Eventually, I come out of it because the time for coming out of it is already set. I can't not come out of my cocoon anymore. I can sit in there and look at my cocoon from every angle and wonder what's happening to me, but it's not going to stop what's happening to me. It can't change it. Salvation is a process that's in you, and it's if you want to say that it's genetically encoded into you, go ahead. I'd be okay with that. It doesn't really matter. You can't avoid it. You can't stop it. You can't do anything. All you can do is help to lubricate the sides by not getting in the way. And that collapses the time that it takes. Right? Jesus has given us the miracle. Jesus gave us a course in miracles so we can learn to become miracle-minded and collapse time by learning to become vigilant for any disturbance to our own sense of inner peace, and see the cyclical nature of that disturbance in all of our affairs and relationships, and choose to heal it, and thus snip out that whole section. Not just in this lifetime, but in every lifetime, in every incarnation. Imagine all your incarnations end to end in a long tunnel, and you turn that tunnel on end and look through it. It's all happening at once. It's not happening one after the other, after the other, after the other. You guys are all doing whatever you're doing in every incarnation right now, listening to somebody about something. In this incarnation, hopefully, you're listening to something that's going to be conducive to making you want to participate more fully in your own salvation by learning how to do this. It's one simple thing. I'm just gonna stop it. I'm going to do that. From this to this, from this to this, from this to this, from this to this. In every moment. In every moment. But if I'm trying to ritualize my moments and keep them in this containment of form association that I feel comfortable with because it makes me feel good about participating in my spiritual practice, then I'm not actually in my spiritual practice. I'm dying. I can burn all the sage I want. I can light all the candles I want. I can burn the incense, play the songs, dance the dance, oh, hardy, 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 all I want. But until I do this, nothing is happening. Got to let go. 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 And I need to be reminded of that all the time until it becomes my state of mind without me needing to be reminded about it. Right? I need to do my lessons in the course with such passion and such determination that when it gets to the point that Jesus tells me, and now forget this course, I do that. What good does it do you to do the workbook for 20 years in a row? Oh, this is my 20th year. It's like some badge of honor. What the fuck? You dummy. It's like repeating high school. I got kept back a year. I have to do it again. Just do it properly once. Just ask for a miracle truly from the heart. God damn it, Jesus. This is my 10th year of, I don't want to be like that person doing it 20 years. I need a miracle. I need a miracle. I can see what kind of dunce I am. Look, I'm wearing the hat. I can't make it any pointier. That was a good session, our dunce hat session, wasn't it? It was like, just take the dunce hat here, ready? Look there, done. Take the dunce hat off. I'm whole and perfect as God created me. Oh, that feels a bit unnerving. What's everyone else going to say if I start walking around being perfect? I'll put this on just for a second. Ooh, that's better. I feel like I fit in again now. Stop trying to fit into a place where you don't belong. Stop trying to fit in. Stand up, declare yourself, be the Christ that you are. Live from the Spirit. Fuck the world. If the world doesn't like you and doesn't want to accept you and all your friends run away and call you crazy motherfucker, fuck it. Who cares? This is between you and God. If you haven't got to the point where you can accept that this is between you and God, maybe you're not ready yet. Maybe you need to hang on that apple tree a little bit longer. Just white knuckle it. But everyone must come to know that there is no world. It's like eventually you're going to be like, I'm not going to any more Zoom meetings. I'm just going to be this. I'm just going to be what I am without perhaps knowing what that is particularly, but I'm just going to be it. I'm just going to be about my Father's business, and come hail, rain or shine, I'm going to be like the postman. I'm just going to get on with it. The mail must get through. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to scrape my knees and bang my knuckles and yep, all the way probably, but I'm still going to do it. I don't care how many people tell me I'm an idiot. I don't care what the world says. The world is a place where all things come to die, and I'm done with that. I don't know how to not die, but I'm told that there's another me or another version of me that is life itself. And by the relinquishment of this idea of what I think I am, I can come to discover that about me and begin to operate from that perspective, from that certainty. I'm the Christ and so are you. And the purpose of all our relationships, the purpose of this relationship, this Zoom meeting, is teaching and learning to bring equality and equanimity or whatever into the relationship, so one who seems to have more can offer it to one who seems to have less, and they become equal and no longer have a need for each other. And thus become also a part of the call to awaken out in the world. It's like there are guys that I know that never did A Course in Miracles. They just had an awakening experience through whatever particulars, and they're out there teaching from it. They're out there just giving it away to varying degrees of acceptance and success, as the world would judge success. But for me, it was given through A Course in Miracles. It's like I accepted, I offered and accepted at the same time to help Jesus teach this course, to be about offering this course to others as a specific form of the universal curriculum. And it's been a hell of a ride, I guess. It's not most people's idea of spiritual participation. It's a fucker of an idea, really, but I remember going to see Amachi, the mother. She's an Indian. I don't know. You guys all know who she is, Amachi, the mother. Right? She came. She was sponsored by some friends of ours to come to our town, and man, there was like 1,000 people or more there in the hall where she came, and everybody right down the front was all the people that thought they knew what the hell was going on. They're all sitting there like this, devotional and dressed in white and trying to be very virginal and respectful of the mother. And there's people at the back with cameras, you know, like the tourists. I don't know why the hell they're there really, but it's a big deal. So let's go, let's take a camera and see if we can get a selfie with her. And there's all that kind of stuff going on. And then in the middle of the group, there's people that they sort of know why they're there, but maybe they wish they were sort of back a bit with a camera and not so confronted, because they don't like the idea of having to wear white clothes and sit there so humbly, because you know it's not in your true nature. But there's all these ideas of spiritual participation, of devotion. But the only thing that matters is your idea of it. There's no ritual. There's no specific format for it. There's no, when I tell you, you have to be devoted to your own process. You have to be You got to activate yourself. You've got to activate yourself. When I tell you that, don't look for a reference of what you think that means. Just say yes to it. It's not like any particular, and the mind will look for references of what it is to be spiritual. It'll go to different Zoom meetings and it'll pick up all millions of different books and read from this author and that author, this guru and that guru, whatever. You are your own guru. I'm only ever just reminding you of that. You are the one that chooses to do this to this. Everything else is just you looking at making that choice. You can disguise it as Krishna. You can disguise it as Amachi. You can disguise it as whatever you want. Still you looking at that choice of doing this. When are you going to do it? When am I going to let go and let God? If it's not in this moment, it's not happening at all. Ready? I'll do it again. You ready? Breathe. Let go. Ready? This. Oh, Bill and Francois are having a bromance there in the dark. I got Bill and Francois right next to each other on my thing, and they're both blacked out. What's going on there, you guys? Is that a holy relationship in the... All right, any questions? Let's break it up here. Anyone got anything? Or comments, statements? Joe, you all good? He's good down there. Joe's doing great guns. Paula? Kevin? Dana? Let's stick with Dana. Let's pick on the new guy.
Hi, everyone.
I would pick on Bernadette. I know she's got stuff going on, but I'll pick on her a bit.
Pick on me, please. Help me.
Ready?
Yes.
Put your hand up like that. Do that. Now do this. Now do that. Now do this. Now do that. Now do this. In here. The association you have with it in your finger is the same as the association you have with it in your world. See it as an action of mind.
Okay.
It's an action of mind. Salvation is an action of mind. Liberation, enlightenment, it's an action of mind. It's an action of saying yes. It's an action of letting go. Fuck it. I'm just going to let go. Fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right.
Jesus. Right.
People think I'm crazy. My brothers came into town this weekend, and
I've
been sick for 3 years that I haven't seen them, and I'm not the same person I was before.
Right.
And, they're kind of making fun of me in a nice way. Like, nothing appears as it was before, but there's still something holding on. And I know that it seems so easy, but it's that churning. There's no words.
Right. Now stay there. You had to use words to tell me there is no words. Stay in the place that you were in just before you said there is no words. Enlightenment happens in your mind in the next thought you don't have. Like literally, in the next thought you don't have, which is doing that, you'll remember the truth of yourself.
And then Dana dies.
Dana never existed in the first place.
Wow.
There is no Dana. There is no world. Think of it like this. imagine heaven like the Sunday school version of heaven, like we're all up on the clouds or something.
Yeah.
When you try to explain it to little children, right? Imagine you're on the cloud and you're asleep. You're just asleep. Everybody else is there doing their thing, creating and just whatever. And you're asleep. You're dreaming this. When you wake up on the cloud, this ceases to exist. The same as a dream you have at night. When you're laying in your bed and you have a dream and then all of a sudden you wake up from that dream, the dream ceases to exist and you carry on with whatever you think this normal life is. But this normal life is also an illusion. This isn't real. Form and molecules and particles. There's no such thing.
Yeah.
But knowing that and having that as a concept doesn't get me out of it.
Right.
Knowing that and having that as a concept only validates it.
Yes.
Which is why all of my spiritual efforts to understand it is nothing more than attempting to validate what doesn't exist.
Mm.
Right? It's like I'm poking at it with my pointy brain. I'm reading all my books about Krishna consciousness, A Course in Miracles, the Bible, the Gitas and everything else, trying to understand it. I'm not trying to understand it. I'm trying to validate it.
Yeah.
It's when I give up, when I do this, that's when I'll understand it and not before. It's like you literally climb the mountain. Go for it. Question.
Is there grace? Is there a period of grace where I don't know if this sounds right, but that something helps let that go?
Rephrase your question.
Is there a period of almost feeling helped with this burden of thinking I'm something? Does that make sense? You can laugh at me.
It's funny. You know, the funny thing is that you think you're not helped now.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to deny the current availability of help to be able to even ask that question. That question is the same thing as pointing at it with your pointy brain. I'm trying to validate being unhelped and to deny the grace of God by asking myself if there is grace or if there is a period of feeling helped. Everything is God. Therefore, where is there that there is not grace other than in my own? I'm thinking that grace ought to look like something. I'm thinking that being helped and feeling about being helped should feel like something, instead of accepting that it must be everything if God is everything. That all I got to do is this. The temptation to want to orchestrate based on my ideas of what I think spiritual learning might be, to orchestrate what I think the help is going to look like. That's what keeps me separate from realizing that I'm actually being helped.
Because you're sewing into it.
Right. Don't worry about trying to be further ahead than where you are. Simply accept where you find yourself, accept where you find your feet now, and bring yourself into the presence of what is at the level that you can understand it in a harmonic or as a vibratory frequency of the association of your own idea of healing. I have an idea of healing that Jesus laid his hands on the leper and like off you go, and and Jesus put the dirt on the blind man and you can see again. And those things to me form this sort of correlation of ideas, these synapses of ideas that are based on the idea of what I think healing looks like, because that's what I'm told it looks like. But in the healing of my mind, what is that going to look like? It looks like this, because mind is everything. And if the purpose of the Holy Spirit is only healing, then that can be the only thing that's happening, because the Spirit of wholeness, or the Holy Spirit, is what it is that I myself that I'm abiding in order to undergo this process in the first place. Either that, or I haven't surrendered to the Holy Spirit and I'm still thinking that there's a me and a spirit of wholeness somehow separate from me. And I'm trying to decide what I think it would look like when that's not the case. What's it going to look like when I'm one with the Holy Spirit? When, you know, like, what do you mean? What does it look like right now? It looks like this.
Wow.
Some guy without a shirt, I'm telling you something. All these other witnesses to the truth of you that are sitting there in their own particular association of their own ideas of healing and the transformation and the resurrection of their own association, coming together in a single accord called a Zoom meeting in the decision that, yes, this is healing, this is what we're about. Whether we've just come into our first day of picking up A Course in Miracles or whether we've done the workbook 20 times. This is what we're about. In this world where all things come to die, this is grace. It's like, holy shit, I've got one brother that's willing to stand with me till the end of time if need be. What more grace could I ask for? What greater gift could I be presented with? It's like to see brothers truly. It's like, I know you guys. I know you guys because I know myself. I've been outside of time and space. I've seen us all in the light as the one mind, as one light, as one. I can't even begin to explain it. I've had experiences of other realms, other dimensions, other beings, other things that I can't explain equally, but which at the time made perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
All in grace. Grace is anything that gives me a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, even if that belonging is in a fraternity of healers, let's say for a second, even if that belonging is in a fellowship that we call the sonship. It's like, wow, I have found my way at last to this holy place where I'm learning about forgiveness. And now all I need to do is apply it.
Yeah.
You know, the holiest of all places on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love. If you knew the faith that Jesus has in you, you would weep. He believes in you more than you can possibly comprehend, more than you believe in yourself, because he knows the power that is within you. That's grace. I have one brother who knows me truly. That's grace.
Thank you.
Whether you realize it or not, you've walked through a kind of an invisible gate. You're no longer part of the world of death. You're no longer wholly insane. You've heard the call, you've answered, and there is nothing to worry about. Just keep doing this.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I need to read stuff too. You know, the thing that happens is, like, as soon as you leave a session, or as soon as you finish this Zoom meeting, or as soon as you stop doing the lesson, all you've got externally to you is the world again, which is going to be clamoring at your senses for validation, which is why mind training is so important. The mind training of A Course in Miracles is so important because it brings you to your own internal discipline, to your own internal realization and remembrance of the fact that you actually do have a true purpose on the earth. You are actually here for a reason. You have said yes to help in a great crusade that has the potential and the capacity to collapse time for everyone in across the spectrum of suffering. Right now, that looks like this. Right now, this is how it looks.
Yeah.
2,000 years ago, there was a bunch of blank-faced disciples sitting with Jesus who knew him as a childhood friend, who were being taught by the master. And just before he left, he said, you guys don't understand what the hell I'm talking to you about, I know. But when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, you'll understand perfectly. But they hung out. They didn't abandon him. Well, maybe. What's his name with the 30 pieces of silver? But even then, he didn't abandon him. He played his part perfectly.
Right.
Judas.
Mm-hmm.
Ted used to say to us, just stay together, you guys. Just stay together in this. Right? You come together for a true purpose. We're learning and we're mastering that purpose together so that we turn our minds from a state of constant forgetfulness to a state of constant remembering. In this world, you cannot remember what you have decided to forget, but you can remember your purpose, which is to remember. My purpose is to remember my creative source, to remember my Father. That's a memory that's in me somewhere. It's in my mind somewhere. I've denied it by covering it up with all of these associations of temporal thought that seem to give validity to the world. But I've now got this workbook of A Course in Miracles. I've got this meditative and applicable practice in my mind that if I am true to it, if I put my heart and my soul and bring that heart and mind together in a prayerful meditative action, I can begin to experience something beyond myself that will give validity to my lessons, to my practice, to my purpose, that will automatically set in me a waypoint. Automatically set in me something that's true that I cannot deny. Until you just have the idea of there is no death. What do you mean by that, Jesus? What the hell? Everything here dies. Everyone dies. What are you, crazy? Look at the stone in your shoe. Look at the reason why you think you're hanging on in a place where all things die. What the hell is there to be afraid of? What have you got to lose? Right? Literally, what do you have to lose? There is nothing to lose.
Yeah, the body.
Right. And what is that?
Nothing. Mine's sick. I don't want it. I'm good.
Right.
Yeah.
A circle in the desert, 40 days and 40 nights. What have you got to lose? Jesus knew that. I've got nothing to lose. I'm either going to go out and confront the temptations that seem to be plaguing me and overcome them through my willingness to simply be still and allow them to be dispelled for me by my Father. Otherwise, what, I'm going to drag them around with me for the next 50 years until this carcass expires? At some point, you make the decision, let go and let God. That 40 days in the desert in the circle is an extreme example of that, perhaps, but it's symbolic of an action in mind that we're capable of making now. Fuck this, I don't know nothing. What is this world? What the hell am I even here? What is the thing? I don't know. So what am I doing next? Why am I hanging on? Who told me to do it?
I'm just so glad that we connected because it's,
Right.
Yes. 7 years of this, it's
Right.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Oh.
I'm doing this to myself. I'm hanging on to a tiny mad idea of separation. I think I'm separate from everyone and everything. Here, put your finger there. Right, now leave it there. Don't take it off. I'm not separate from anything I think I see, from anything that happens to me, from any comment, from any reflection I get anywhere, from anyone, for anything. I am simply not separate, because there is no such thing as separation from God. Right? Now keep it there. And in the moment where you seem to think you're a body that's sick for 7 years, put your finger back there. Like, what the hell? If God is love, unconditional and formless and all-encompassing forever, what is this? If not an instrument for me to be able to remember that. I'm learning how to remember that I'm perfect. Is that too much to ask?
No. No.
Does that confront you? It should. I'm learning how to remember that I am perfect. Oh, don't be ridiculous. Nobody is perfect. Don't be arrogant. You're not perfect. We all make mistakes. No, we don't. No mistake ever was made. Nothing ever happened. It's just a dream. It's just an illusion. But it seems real because I'm using the power of God mind to make it real. Just as the power of God mind, I can just as equally use it for creation's purpose, which is the extension of my love. That idea of this, it's the same idea of St. Francis throwing all his father's possessions out the window, walking naked out into the village and out the village gates and go, nah, done with this, see ya. It's the same thing. It's a total uncompromising situation. You can't come back from that. You can't walk back through the village gates. Has anyone seen my pants? You'll forever be known as that guy that walked out naked. And that'll become the next identity that you adopt. So doing this is an action of total, I'm giving up the world. I'm walking out. This isn't me. This is not me. I refuse to accept it. But before I can truly refuse to accept it, I need to accept it. I need to accept that this was the choice I made. Otherwise, I'm going to feel the victim to it and feel that my new choice has been based on victimhood and that I was coerced and prompted into making the decision. It's like, no, I chose this. I chose to come to a world where all things die. I chose to believe in the experience of separation from God. That restores to me the power of my own mind. Holy shit, I used the power of my own mind to make that decision. I'm no longer in denial. I'm looking squarely at my denial, but I'm no longer denying my denial. Now I can deny it through making a new choice. No, that's not me. I don't know how to allow that and to escape from that idea that it is me, because it still seems to be dragging along behind me like tin cans on a just married car. Clattering and banging. Everywhere I go, it seems to follow along behind, trying to convince me that it's still there. But I've already made that decision. And I have to learn how to refuse to listen to my ego. I have to learn and train my mind not to validate my own thinking by recognizing, firstly, that all my thoughts don't mean anything. And that nothing I see means anything. Lesson 1 in the Course in Miracles. Nothing I see means a damn thing. What do I want to do? Use my thoughts to try and work out what I think he means by that? I have to accept it in its entirety. So, all right, well, Jesus, you know what you mean by that. I don't know what you mean by that. So let me just accept that you know what you mean, and then I'll proceed under that auspice and trust you and put my faith in you, and I'll enter into a new moment where I can be shown what that means. Not where I can try and work out what it means on a higher, more spiritual way. No.
Thank you.
It's funny. The whole thing's just funny. It's like
it's a cosmic joke, you know.
It is a cosmic joke. It's like, ready? I'm the cosmic joke. I'm the only one Get it. Now I've got to keep my finger. Oh, why do I keep forgetting to laugh? I have to take it seriously for a second because there seems to be like a Zoom meeting of people that are all looking at me, waiting for me to get it. Like, there's nothing to get. Nothing ever happened. What am I going to get in a nothing? More of the nothing? Right. You're free. Dana, you're free already. God created you free. And that's it. What are you going to say about that? What is freedom, Lord?
Yeah.
Oh, I know a song about freedom. You're going to, like, freedom is going to trigger all these thoughts and ideas in the mind about what you think freedom is, which is nothing more than the denial of actually the freedom that I just told you that you are.
It's so simple, but why is it so hard?
No. Ready? Put your finger there. Why do I?
Why do I?
Why do I make it so hard?
Why do I make it so hard?
Because you want to.
Why do I want to?
Because you're insane. You're laughing now.
I can admit that. I don't want to be insane anymore.
No, you can't. Oh, yes, you do want to be insane. You just told me. Why do I keep doing that? Because you want to be insane. You want to be crazy.
So
You're buying 10 cats.
Two. So every
Right.
encounter is about me. It's about nothing that's outside of me. Oops.
Right, exactly. There is
Okay.
no. I'm not here. I'm just an image in your dream. I'm just an imagination of your own thoughts.
But I asked for you.
Right.
I did.
Exactly.
And it shows up.
And here I am.
Yeah.
We're all crazy down here, Alice. All completely
Wow.
into this mad equation comes a teacher of God.
But it seems now that when I
See what
ask,
you're doing? No, stop.
or well,
Stop.
when
Stop.
the heart,
Stop. See what you're doing?
talking about
You've gone straight back into your own thinking
mind.
of life to try and figure out the situation you find yourself in right now. And you go, it seems to me, based on what? More of your own crazy thinking? Stop it.
Wow.
Ready? Stop it.
Yes. You know, maybe it's hard to accept the love.
Ready?
No, yeah.
Doing it again. Ready? Stop it.
Stop it. I watched that last night, but
Right. Stop it.
stop it. That's going to be my mantra.
No. Remember rituals? Just this whole thing. We've been all the way to old Johnny Moon dying from cancer and the whole thing, and rituals, and right back here to right to you now.
Oh man.
Stop it. Stop it.
Whoa.
This is what happens when I pick on you. Bernadette's just great. I'm picking on her.
You're next, Bernadette. No, I appreciate it.
No, you don't. You hate it.
Oh. Whatever it takes.
No. See what you're doing? See what you're doing?
No.
Trying to soften the blow. It's inevitable. I've told you. You're awake. You're going to fall from that apple tree. Hang around the barber shop and you're eventually going to get a haircut. Yeah, not Sweeney Todd's. Except that one barber shop. Right, that one bar. Dana, you're like the person that Jesus will be giving his sermon on the mount, and you want to go up and tell him what you think about it. Oh, Jesus, that's incredible you say that. I was just sitting with someone last week who said much the same thing, blah, 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 blah. No one needs to know a thing that goes on in your head. No one needs to know anything. This is just a dream.
Wow.
Right. You're free. Ready? Let's do it again.
It's free. Oh, it's free. It's free.
You're free right now. Not in the future when the Lord comes to walk on the earth.
Right now.
You're free now.
Mm.
Being spiritual, that's what that is. I am spirit. I'm not a victim. I'm not a body. I am as God created me right now. There never was a time that I wasn't. Literally, I am God incarnate. Adida Samaranch. You go from an idea of yourself as being God incarnate or being from Homo sapien to Homo illumina. God man. Going from being Homo sapien to Homo illumina, or from being man to God man, is as far as you go in the journey of the soul on earth. Beyond that, we cannot speak. From being unremembered to self-realized. After that, who the hell knows? But this thing, this avatar, this carcass, this body, this association of mental acuity that seems to be projecting and talking words and stuff that's putting out a vibration into the world that resonates on a whole different level of operation than death, it's temporary just like everything else. And it must be laid aside. But for a moment, God walks upon the earth, disguised as man, as a sheep in wolf's clothing. You're free right now. That's the greatest threat to your thought system I can give you, that you're perfect, you're free, you're whole. Let it in, don't examine it. Let it in, don't examine it. Accept it. Ready? Do that. Yes. Yes, Lord. I'm whole and perfect. I'm willing to accept it right here and now. No fucking clue what that means, but hey, I'm going to accept it. Once I accept it, then I can be shown. Jesus opens the door. I have to step through it. Can't stand there peeping around the corners to see what's on the other side of the door. It doesn't work that way. A leap of faith isn't dipping your toe in the ocean to see if you want to do it or not. It's jumping in wholeheartedly. I'm either whole and perfect now, or I'm never going to be. I'm perfect as God created me. I'm a creation of God. I am the extension of God's love. I am his kingdom. I am his son. That's what I am. Not the thing that you would make of me. Although for a moment, I'm going to play the part of the thing that you make of me so we can join together in something that helps you to see beyond even that. I'll walk with you in flesh and in clothes, in blood. I'll break bread and drink wine. I'll do all of that. And you do it with me, because that's how this works, together. It's a new game, a new way, and I'm inviting you to play. It's a different kind of sandpit. You've got to get out of the one you're in. But there's no rules in my sandpit.
Okay.
Are you ready to play without rules?
Yes. Yes.
Without better or worse, without good or bad?
Yes.
Without mine and yours? Without should or shouldn't?
Yes. Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you.
Took a minute, but we got there.
Thank you.
That's what time is for. Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Let all gratitude be to God. Always think up. Let your thoughts be up. My Father in heaven, the divine, not of this world. In the world, but not of it. So we don't have Barry and Tina. We don't have Barry and who's the other that I sent them to London?
Angela.
Angela.
Maybe
you think they're in London?
Now. I think so.
You think they're there?
I do. It's quite late though. It's
Oh,
like 10 o'clock.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for Barry to put back on the counter, you know, like counter be like,
oh, it's gonna be amazing.
Well, you know, I was going to wait till he'd done it before I give him the analogy of, you know, the Buddhist monks, and they do those sand mandalas, and it takes them like a month or whatever to make those beautiful things, and then when they finish, they just wipe it out. It doesn't mean anything to them. But you can't tell me that there wouldn't be that moment where they're like, oh, maybe I'll just get a photo of it to send to somebody, because it's, you know, like, otherwise, why are you doing it? Right? Why do it in the first place unless there's a reason to confront the idea of attachment? You don't see the attachment in the exercise, then what's the point of it? You would have to be in denial, because everything here has the purpose of healing. Anyway, anyone else got anything? We'll do a big meditation next week, I think.
Oh, next week, not today.
No, not today.
Okay. I think Francois had his hand up. Is that passed?
Darlana's all blacked out. I can't see Francois.
Darlana's not black.
There he is. He's blacked out too. Bill was blacked out. He's back in the light. Where's Darlana gone? She's
here. I see her. Oh, Darlana's here.
Yeah. Oh, it's my screen. Hang on.
It's your screen. It's you.
No, it's my finger. I know. My computer has been playing up, and it's funny because my phone, like all my device things have been playing up. The keyboard on my phone, when I type something, it untypes it by itself, and it's just like, and if I try to move to somewhere to do an edit, the cursor goes back to where it was before. I'm like, what the hell is bloody, you know?
You know what else? I had two TVs die this week, like one after the other. Like that was
That's
funny.
That would definitely be a blessing. You know, there's nothing on television. There's nothing in the world, but television, if you don't get it by television, you're never going to get it, I'll tell you. And turn to, you'll suddenly realize, oh, there is no world. This can't be real. This is a complete ridiculous and a parody on what I think reality is. Even on my own terms, it's ridiculous. And that's a really good thing if you look at it that way. I mean, man, do you guys have ever seen Neighbours or any of those soap operas that it's like, who the fuck do they make soap operas for? Like, does anyone really dig that stuff? Like the woody stiff, like it's like, is that supposed to be life? Is like, what the hell? Somebody's doing something and someone else is this whole thing. It's like Sesame Street for grown-ups. I just don't get it. If you don't question the reality of the world you find yourself in through watching soap operas, man, that should be homework. Watch an episode of Days of Our Lives or something.
Oh Lord, Father.
I know, right? Joe's like, no freaking way. Look at the resistance there, Joe. Anywho, grandmother, this is just a little aside, funny story. My grandmother, in the dreaming of grandmothers, I have to add that in because it's like, it gets slippery. My brother and I used to have to go there after school until my parents would pick us up after they finished work. So we would have 2 hours with my grandmother, and we would get there from walking from school to her place was about a 5-minute walk. And Days of Our Lives started and school finished at 3 o'clock, and we would get there at like 5 or 10 past 3. We were not allowed to utter a single word. She would be in her little armchair like that, watching Days of Our Lives. And for 2 or 3 years that we lived in that place near her, nothing changed in that Days of Our Lives. You could come back 6, same scenarios being played out in this slow kind of powdery, like dream-like, and they do that where the edge of the picture is sort of out of focus, sort of like a dream. I know, it's soft, everything's soft, and it's like the women, the guys are all dressed up. They're just going out to buy the newspaper, but they got a 3-piece suit on, and and the women are all like they're going to the gala ball,
full face.
Full face, just to cook some bacon and eggs in the morning. It's like, what?
Waking up like Paula.
Yeah,
waking up full face.
I know, what the hell.
My grandmother used to call it my story. Don't say anything when my story's on. My story's on.
Right. I don't get it, but anyway, God bless us all.
My story.
I know, but they're all the same, right? So Gilligan's Island. When I was a kid, Gilligan's Island, same thing. For whatever reason, right? This is the same. For whatever reason, as a child, I remember being like totally enamored with Gilligan's Island. Gotta watch it. Because the scenarios and the thing, they're never getting off the damn island. That no matter what happens, the same characters are going to do different versions of the same thing for the same purpose, and it's all going to fail in the end because of the same person, Gilligan. And they're all going to end with that laughter going, oh, Gilligan, you did it again. And the skipper hits him with his hat, and like if that's not a snapshot of everyday human experience, then what is? It's like Days of Our Lives, same thing, snapshots. It's all there. Turn on the TV, maybe. Have a good look at it and a good laugh. It's hilarious when you see it. It's like, oh man, this is me. Finger on the nose.
Tina, did you see that episode of Black Mirror?
I've seen every episode of Black Mirror. Yeah.
I think the late was it
is
maybe
the Black
the
Mirror.
latest.
Look at that.
With
hey.
With
I'm offended.
I think what
Which
is it
one?
with I think Selma Hayek.
No. Black Mirror with Selma Hayek?
I saw it. It was fabulous.
Selma Hayek? There's a new Black Mirror?
Yeah, she was Selma Hayek. It was on Black Mirror.
Yes, you have to watch that because that episode.
I've seen every episode.
It's a new season.
Oh, I haven't seen a new season. I didn't know.
Oh my God,
Yes.
Tina, it is really the dream.
Okay, cool.
It's showing that, like, I'm not gonna ruin it, but that is the one. It's right here, like what's happening exactly.
Yeah. Right
It's
on.
like
bizarre.
You just ruined it.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, all of Black Mirror episodes are just like the dream.
You don't have to watch it now, Tina. It's just like this. What's
Man
happening?
versus Fire. The one with the cockroaches.
Yes,
Man versus Fire. Oh, it's my favorite.
Bye. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh,
Hey,
man.
peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bernadette left. So there's a new episode. There's a new series.
Yeah, it's